Guernsey, officially the bailiwick of Guernsey, is a possession of the British Crown in right of Guernsey in the English Channel, off the coast of Normandy. As a bailiwick, Guernsey embraces not only all 10 parishes on the island of Guernsey, but also the islands of Alderney and Sark, each with its own parliament, and the smaller islands of Herm, Jethou and Liu. Although its defence is the responsibility of the United Kingdom, the bailiwick is not part of the United Kingdom but rather a possession of the British Crown. It lies within the common travel area of the British Isles and is not a member of the European Union, but has a special relationship with it, being treated as part of the European Community for the purposes of free trade in goods. Together, the bailiwick of Guernsey and bailiwick of Jersey form the geographical grouping known as the Channel Islands. Etymology: the name Guernsey, as well as that of neighbouring Jersey, is of Old Norse origin. The second element of each word, a, is the Old Norse for island, while the original root, gern, is of uncertain origin and meaning. History: around 6000 BC, rising seas created the English Channel and separated the Norman promontories that became the bailiwicks of Guernsey and Jersey from continental Europe. Neolithic farmers then settled on its coast and built the dolmens and menhirs found in the islands today. During their migration to Brittany, Britons occupied the Lenna Islands including Sarnia or Lycia and Angia. Travelling from the Kingdom of Gwent, Saint Samson, later the Abbot of Dol in Brittany, is credited with the introduction of Christianity to Guernsey. In 933 the islands, formerly under the control of William I, then Duchy of Brittany, were annexed by the Duchy of Normandy. The island of Guernsey and the other Channel Islands represent the last remnants of the medieval Duchy of Normandy. During the Middle Ages, the island was a haven for pirates that would use the lamping technique to ground ships close to her waters. This intensified during the 100 Years' War, when, starting in 1339, the island was occupied by the Capetians on several occasions. The Guernsey militia was operational in 1337 and would help defend the island for a further 600 years. In 1372, the island was invaded by Aragonese mercenaries under the command of Orwain Lorgoch, who was in the pay of the French king. Lorgoch and his dark-haired mercenaries were later absorbed into Guernsey legend as invading fairies from across the sea. In the mid-16th century, the island was influenced by Calvinist reformers from Normandy. During the Marian persecutions, 3 women, the Guernsey martyrs, were burned at the stake for their Protestant beliefs. During the English Civil War, Guernsey sided with the parliamentarians. The allegiance was not total, however, there were a few royalist uprisings in the southwest of the island. While Castle Cornet was occupied by the governor, Sir Peter Osborne, and royalist troops. In December 1651, with full honours of war, Castle Cornet surrendered. It was the last royalist outpost anywhere in the British Isles to surrender. Wars against France and Spain during the 17th and 18th centuries gave Guernsey shipowners and sea captains the opportunity to exploit the island's proximity to mainland Europe by applying for letters of marque and turning their merchantmen into privateers. By the beginning of the 18th century, Guernsey's residents were starting to settle in North America. The 19th century saw a dramatic increase in prosperity of the island, due to its success in the global maritime trade, and the rise of the stone industry. During World War I, approximately 3,000 island men served in the British Expeditionary Force. Of these, about 1,000 served in the Royal Guernsey Light Infantry Regiment formed from the Royal Guernsey Militia in 1916. For most of World War II, the bailiwick was occupied by German troops. Before the occupation, many Guernsey children had been evacuated to England to live with relatives or strangers during the war. Some children were never reunited with their families. The occupying German forces deported some of the bailiwick's residents to camps in the southwest of Germany, notably to the Lager Lindau near Biberach and Der Rises. Guernsey was very heavily fortified during World War II out of all proportion to the island's strategic value. German defences and alterations remain visible. Politics. The deliberative assembly of the States of Guernsey is called the States of Deliberation and consists of 45 people's deputies, elected from multi- or single-member districts every 4 years. There are also 2 representatives from Alderney, a semi-autonomous dependency of the bailiwick, but Sark sends no representative. The bailiff or deputy bailiff preside in the assembly. There are also 2 non-voting members, H.M. Procurer and H.M. Controller, both appointed by the Crown and collectively known as the Law Officers of the Crown. A projet de loi is the equivalent of a UK bill or a French projet de loi, and a law is the equivalent of a UK Act of Parliament or a French LOI. A draft law passed by the states can have no legal effect until formally approved by Her Majesty in Council and promulgated by means of an order in Council. Laws are given the royal sanction at regular meetings of the Privy Council in London, after which they are returned to the islands for formal registration at the Royal Court. The states also make delegated legislation known as ordinances and orders, which do not require the royal assent. Commencement orders are usually in the form of ordinances. The Lieutenant Governor is the representative of the Crown in right of the Republic of the Bailiwick of Guernsey. The official residence of the Lieutenant Governor is Government House. Since the 15th of April 2011, the incumbent had been Air Marshal Peter Walker until his death in office on the 6th of September 2015. Each parish is administered by a douzaine. Douzainiers are elected for a 6-year mandate, 2 douzainiers being elected by parishioners at a parish meeting in November each year. The senior douzainier is known as the doyen. 2 elected constables carry out the decisions of the douzaine, serving for between 1 and 3 years. The longest-serving constable is known as the senior constable and his or her colleague as the junior constable. The legal system is Guernsey customary derived from Norman French customary law, heavily influenced and overlaid by English common law. Justice being administered through a combination of the Magistrates' Court and the Royal Court. Members of Guernsey's legal profession are known as advocates, there being no distinction between solicitors and barristers as in England and Wales. Guernsey advocates fulfill both roles. The Royal Court of Guernsey is made up of the bailiff, who presides and determines issues of law, and between 12 and 16 jurats, who determine issues of fact and are elected to office by an electoral college known as the States of Election. Appeals lie from the Royal Court to the Guernsey Court of Appeal and thereafter to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. Several European countries have consulate presence in the island. The French consulate is based at Victor Hugo's former residence at Hauteville House. The German honorary consulate is based at local design and advertising agency Bettley Whitehorn Image, while Guernsey has complete autonomy over internal affairs and certain external matters. The topic of complete independence from the British Crown has been discussed widely and frequently, with ideas ranging from Guernsey obtaining independence as a dominion to the bailiwicks of Guernsey and Jersey uniting and forming an independent federal state within the Commonwealth, whereby both islands retain their independence with regards to domestic affairs, but internationally, the islands would be regarded as one state. Geography. At 49 degrees 28 N 2 degrees 35 W, 49.467 degrees north, 2.583 degrees west, 49.467, minus 2.583, Alderney, Guernsey, Herm, Sark, and some other smaller islands have a total area of 78 square kilometers and a coastline of about 50 kilometers. By itself, the island of Guernsey has a total area of 63.4 square kilometers. Guernsey is situated 50 kilometers west of France's Normandy coast and 120 kilometers south of Weymouth, England, and lies in the Gulf of St. Malo. Liu, a tidal island, is attached to Guernsey by a causeway at low tide. The terrain is mostly level with low hills in southwest. The southeastern point is Cherbourg Point, used by the Germans during World War II. Elevation varies across the bailiwick from sea level to 114 meters at Le Moulin-en-Sark. The highest point in mainland Guernsey is Houtnez, in Alderney at Le Rondebert, in Jeddah, and Herm. Natural resources include cropland. Guernsey contains two main geographical regions, the Haut-Pas, a high southern plateau, and the Bas-Pas, a low-lying and sandy northern region. In general terms, the Haut-Pas is the more rural of the two, while the Bas-Pas is more residential and industrialized. There is a large deep-water harbour at St. Peter Port. The Cascades, a group of islets, are notable for the lighthouse facility constructed there. Guernsey has a long and complex geological history. Climate: the climate is temperate with mild winters and warm sunny summers. The warmest months are July and August, when temperatures are generally around 20 degrees Celsius, with some days occasionally going above 24 degrees Celsius. On average, the coldest month is February, with an average weekly mean air temperature of 6 degrees Celsius. Average weekly mean air temperature reaches 16 degrees Celsius in August. Snow rarely falls and is unlikely to settle, but is most likely to fall in February. The temperature rarely drops below freezing, although strong wind chill from Arctic winds can sometimes make it feel like it. The rainiest months of December, November, and January. July is, on average, the sunniest month with 250 hours recorded sunshine. December the least with 58 hours recorded sunshine. 50% of the days are overcast. A number of records were set in 2014. It was the highest annual mean temperature of 12.4 degrees Celsius. This is 0.3 degrees Celsius higher than for any other year, due to an almost complete absence of cold snaps during the winter months. 3 very wet months meant that the winter was the wettest on record. Halloween turned out to be warmer than any other on record, with the temperature peaking at 18.3 degrees Celsius. Parishes. Guernsey is divided into 10 administrative parishes for local government purposes. The smaller islands of Alderney and Sark are not parishes of Guernsey, except for ecclesiastical purposes. Like Guernsey, the Church of England parishes fall under the See of Canterbury, previously under the Bishopric of Winchester, and their respective parish churches are St. Anne and St. Peter. Economy. Financial services, such as banking, fund management, and insurance, account for about 37% of GDP. Tourism, manufacturing, and horticulture, mainly tomatoes and cut flowers, especially freesias, have been declining. Light tax and death duties make Guernsey a popular offshore finance center for private equity funds. As with other offshore centers, Guernsey is coming under pressure from bigger nations to change its way of doing business. Guernsey is changing the way its tax system works in order to remain OECD compliant. Tax revenues are 18.2% of GDP. From the 1st of January 2008, it has operated a 0-10 corporate tax system where most companies pay 0% corporate tax and a limited number of activities are subject to taxation, including banking activity, regulated utilities and income from the sale of land or building. As a result, annual accounts showed an overall fiscal deficit of £24 million in 2011, which it aims to eliminate by economic growth and government expenditure restraint. The deficit is currently supported by drawing funds from reserves built up during periods of surplus. At present, the island has no national debt. Guernsey also has a thriving non-finance industry. It is home to Specsavers Optical Group, which manages the largest optical chain in the UK and Ireland and also operates in Scandinavia, the Netherlands, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and Spain. HealthSpan also has its headquarters in Guernsey. Guernsey issues its own sterling coinage and banknotes. UK coinage and banknotes also circulate freely and interchangeably. Public services, such as water, wastewater, the two main harbours and the airport are still owned and controlled by the states of Guernsey. Gas is supplied by an independent private company. Guernsey Telecoms, which provided telecommunications, was sold by the states to Cable and Wireless plc, rebranded as Shaw, and was sold to Batelco in April 2013. Newtel was the first alternative telecommunications company on the island, providing a range of residential and business telecommunication services as well as high-specification data centers. Wave Telecom, which became JT, owned by Jersey Telecom, also provides some telecommunications excluding local loop services. Newtel was acquired by Wave Telecom in 2010. Wave Telecom then became joined together. Both the Guernsey postal boxes and the telephone boxes are painted blue, but otherwise are identical to their British counterparts, the red pillar box and red telephone box. In 2009, the telephone boxes at the bus station were painted yellow, just like they used to be when Guernsey Telecoms was state-owned. During late 2011, the UK decided to end VAT relief on Channel Islands goods. This is no longer being contested by the Guernsey government and several private firms. Data centers are a growing part of the Guernsey economy and are helping it diversify away from mainly finance-related industries. Guernsey now has the official ISO 3166-1 Alpha 2 code GG and the official ISO 3166-1 Alpha 3 code GG. Wide market data vendors, such as Reuters, will report products related to Guernsey using the Alpha 3 code. In 2013, there were over 31,000 people employed in Guernsey, with 3,000 being self-employed, 2,038 employing businesses, of which 20% are in the finance industry. Taxation: individuals resident in Guernsey pay income tax at the rate of 20%. Guernsey has a 0% corporation tax rate on most companies, a 10% rate, a 20% rate. Guernsey levies no capital gains, inheritance, capital transfer, value-added or general withholding taxes. Tourism: Guernsey, with its sandy beaches, cliff walks and seascapes, has been a tourist destination since at least the Victorian days. Guernsey entered Britain in bloom, with St. Martin Parish winning the small town category twice in 2006 and 2011. Herm winning the small coastal resort category in 2002 and 2008, and tourist destination in 2012. St. Peter Port winning the large coastal category in 2014, and St. Peter's winning the small coastal prize in 2015. Transport: ports and harbours exist at St. Peter Port and St. Sampson. There are 2 paved airports in the bailiwick, and 3 miles of railways in Alderney. The states of Guernsey wholly own their own airline, Orani Air Services. The decision to purchase the airline was made to protect important air links to and from the island, and the sale was completed on 15 May 2003. It was announced that the states would sell Orani to a rival Channel Islands airline, Blue Islands, in July 2010. But the talks fell through in September 2010 due to uncertainty as to whether arrival departure slots at Gatwick Airport could be guaranteed. The Guernsey Railway, virtually an electric tramway, began working on 20 February 1892 and was abandoned on 9 June 1934. It replaced an earlier transport system which was worked by steam, the Guernsey Steam Tramway. The latter began service on 6 June 1879 with 6 locomotives. Alderney is now the only Channel Island with a working railway. Guernsey also has a public bus service, operated by CT Plus on behalf of the States of Guernsey Environment Department.